Hey guys, and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Backyard Builds. So today, I feel like I have a really good treat for you guys. We went a little ways out of America, sorta. We're doing some video chat here with my friend Josh, and today we're going to talk about his very unique car, and I'm really excited for you guys to check this out. So, Josh, tell me what you have there, man.
That's a 1986 Chevette. I LT1 swapped it. The engine came from a 1995 Roadmaster, and it's backed with a Borg Warner T5 from a late 80s Camaro, and it's a ton of fun.
It definitely sounds like it. Now, the first thing that caught me whenever I saw this car on Facebook, I was scrolling down, I noticed it did not have an LS swap.
No, and to be quite frank with you, I'm not a huge fan of the LS swaps. I wanted to be a little bit different.
Dude, I'm with you 100%. I'm a huge fan of LS swaps, but even myself, I'm starting to get a little tired of seeing them myself. So, since that's the LT, do you still have the OptiSpark and everything?
I do for now. This was kind of a build on a budget with a fairly short timeline. So there is plans for a better fuel system, better ignition system. But that'll all be as money permits moving forward.
Oh yeah, man, they're never done. I mean, it's
No,
always we always find something a little bit better to do down the line.
absolutely.
Well, man, I want you to do us a favor and walk us through. So, when did you buy the car? What made you buy it? And did you already have the idea to LT swap this car whenever you got it?
This is where it gets kind of fun and interesting. I bought the car originally in 2011 from the original owners. And I vowed, like when I walked up to the car for the first time, I said, you know, this is my car. It just felt like mine, and there was something about it that I was just hooked on. Now you fast forward a couple of years, money got tight, and I had to sell it, and it went 4 hours away, and I dropped it off. And when as I was driving home, I was already kicking myself.
Yeah.
You know, I made a huge mistake, and it took 7 years to track the car back down. The buyer was not immediately willing to talk to me or communicate in any way. So finally, I got a hold of his wife, and she had told me that he was interested in selling it, but for some reason didn't want me to be that person. So it took a lot of talking, a lot of working to get it back. So I bought it back, and I just started enjoying it. And I said, you know, I'm never going to swap it. That was not the plan. And well, here we are now. So.
So did something happen to the original motor that, like, maybe was it damaged or something, or did you just decide one day, you know what, I've changed my mind?
It would have been early in 2020 when COVID hit. I got laid off of work. And I had kind of been thinking about maybe doing a swap. I wasn't too sure. And as soon as I got laid off, I said, now's the time, because I got all kinds of time. So I originally swapped in a Vortec 350 out of a pickup truck.
Nice.
And it was a worn out dog, you know. It had done a lot of work in its life, and I knew there had to be a better engine that I could stuff in there, but it was something just to keep me busy. during that time off work, and it definitely did that.
So what's the transmission setup you said?
It's a T5 from a late 80s Camaro.
Okay, okay.
The 5-speed, hydraulic clutch. So, you know, it's a little bit better than that old cable I had on there before.
Yeah, definitely. Oh man, listen, I am definitely stick shift for life, man. That's my crew right there.
Absolutely, 100%.
What's the drivetrain situation on that, the rear end and everything?
So the rear end is from a 1982 S10.
Okay.
Luckily, it's less than an inch wider than the Chevette rear end.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't have to narrow it at all. So that's all done. I made a custom third link for the rear because normally these cars have a torque tube setup. Kind of like an F-body with the third link, except the drive shaft runs through that tube on the Chevette. So
did you fab that up like yourself?
100%.
Yes.
I made it out of, it's made out of DOM tubing. And I was running out of time, and we couldn't find anybody to bend it up in a timely manner. This is a dirt track town, and all of the builders were really busy at that time building cars. So we used a tubing bender for conduit, electrical conduit.
Oh, okay.
And it worked. It worked really nice. It's really nice.
Hey man, you have to use what you've got. You would not believe the projects that I've built in my garage with nothing more than a $12 Harbor Freight cutoff wheel and a welder, and that's it.
That's what it's all about, man. That's what it's all about.
Well, that's killer. What about the interior, man? Have you done anything to it?
Absolutely bone stock on the interior. I wanted to keep the car as original as possible.
Yeah.
So that, you know, when you look in the car, you're like, well, there's nothing special going on here.
Right.
But then you look under the hood, and it's a whole different story.
I'll be honest with you, that right there alone is one of the reasons I love that car, because it's simple, it's clean, it's OEM looking in the interior, so you really have that like nostalgia kick whenever you sit down in it. So I mean, like that's awesome, man. I really respect those kind of builds. I think those are really nice.
Absolutely, no, you're definitely right. And keeping the heart of the car there was the number one priority with this swap.
That's awesome. So, man, is this your daily driver, or is this just your weekend fun car?
It used to be my daily driver. Now it is only a nice day automobile.
Nice. Yeah.
You know, it lives in the garage here, and I take it out when I want to go to a show or go for a little cruise in the evening. But it does not do the daily thing anymore.
It's definitely one of the cleanest cars that I've seen. Like you've definitely done a really good job of keeping it mint and keeping it clean.
Well, I appreciate that a lot.
Ooh, what about exhaust? So what have you done for the exhaust on it?
So to start up at the engine, I used block hugger headers, which would be typically used on like a Model T type application.
Oh, okay.
Off of them, I made a custom Y pipe and brought it into a 3-inch single. And then the muffler is a Flowmaster FX, and then just 3-inch the rest of the way out with a 4-inch tip. I wanted the big tip.
Yeah.
I couldn't help myself.
Hey man, it's a classic look, especially from the 80s, man. 80s and 90s, it's classic. So as for suspension, obviously there's going to be a massive weight difference between the LT and the factory engine that came in that car. So what can you tell us about that?
So the front suspension, it's stock control arms, but instead of the Chevette springs, I'm using Mustang 2 springs. Same diameter, much heavier spring.
Right.
And then for the front spindles, I'm using a Nova spindle. I'm using so it's a Nova spindle with the Mustang 2 steering arm for like a dirt track car type application.
Oh, that's cool.
And then with some conversion wheel bearings, I was able to put a 10.5-inch GM metric rotor on, so it matches the same bolt pattern as the S10 rear. And oddly enough, the track width ended up exactly the same. And that was strictly by luck. That was, I didn't even think of it until I was putting the wheels on. I'm like, damn, that's perfect.
Can't beat that with a stick.
Not at all.
Well, that's awesome, man. To me, you know, that's people like you are an inspiration because that is keeping what I consider hot rodding alive. You know, too many people nowadays, they'll buy a brand new car. And don't get me wrong, I'm happy that we have a good aftermarket support for a lot of vehicles nowadays. You know, you can go to an aftermarket company and get wheels and body kits and, you know, engine swap mounts and things like that. And I'm glad that we have that for a lot of vehicles. But there's just something different about doing the old school hot rodders version, which is where you kind of build your own thing. And I love that you've done that with this car because it's, to me, that's keeping that old school hot rodding thing still alive. I really like that.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more on that at all. It, you know, every piece that I had to make, you know, with my hands to make everything work was time and effort and, you know, all of it. So there's not one piece that I bought that just bolted on. Everything had to be modified in some way or another, you know, and that's kind of what makes me proud of the project and makes it kind of unique because nobody has one like it.
So obviously there's a lot more horsepower there than what came stock. So did you change anything with the tires? Like what's the tire size differences there?
So the stock tire size would have been a 155 80R13. I think it was a 4.5 or a 5-inch wide rim. I'm using a Chevy Nova wheel now. It's a 14x7. And then I wanted that slight little bit of stretch on the sidewalls. I don't like a lot, but just a tickle.
Yeah.
And so I'm running a 185 65R14 now.
Well, I like it. I think the wheel and tire combo on it look really well.
I appreciate that.
Do you have any, what's your future plans for it?
At this point, like we talked about, fuel system, ignition system, I want to get that up to par. I'd like to do the aluminum heads from an F-body or something similar. Get a larger cam to give it a little bit of a thump at idle. I'm not looking to go really fast. I just really want that intimidation factor, if you will. Other than that, we're looking at a full body job in the future here because, you know, it had a paint job probably about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's starting to show some signs of age. So it's, you know, I want to save the car as much as possible. And I think that would be a really good way to do it.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, Josh, man, thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate you. I'm really happy that we got to speak with you today, and thank you so much, man, for coming out and sharing your build with us, man. It's been a pleasure seeing it for sure.
Awesome. I appreciate the opportunity.